Today we cover a market update for the housing market in Bangkok and in Thailand in general. We'll look at what's happening in the news, how that's affecting the market, and how things are developing here. Hi, I'm Gerald.Enright, and I'm coming to you from my office here in Bangkok, Thailand. Let's take a look at what's going on in the market and how that may be affecting the prices for the near future and a little bit longer into the remainder of this year. So we'll take a look at kind of what's going on in the market, a little bit of situation analysis, what's in the news, some market trends, what do we see happening in the market, and we'll wrap it up with my analysis of what I think is going on in the market today. Some of the things we want to talk about in situation analysis, what's in the news? We all know that the flu is in the news. We know that the economy is changing because mostly of the flu, and a little throw in a bit of what's going on in the political landscape. So I'm going to switch over to my computer and we're going to take a look at some news stories and the likes. First, let's look at what's going on with the flu. So Thailand has been very fortunate in the early stages of the pandemic. If you look at this graph, we'll see that back in 2020, we're talking negligible. We're talking like 50, 60 cases. And that was the case for a long time. Then in January, late January of 2021, we had a little spike. That kind of abated. And then, coming into the Thai New Year in April, the government allowed people to travel to provinces. That kind of initiated a huge new explosion that we're in the middle of right now. Countries are emerging from. We're now buried under the pandemic. Well, let's take a look at the other factor that I feel will affect the flu is vaccinations. And so what we want to look at is this little map on the side. Thailand is doing a fairly poor job at rolling out vaccinations in the population. They are responding to outbreaks the best they can. So looking at this little map here on the side of the screen, you can see that there's 16 million doses in a population of 67 million people. And fully vaccinated is about 5.2. The vaccinations are in short supply. They're not being procured quickly. There's a lot of issues here. So I don't see that we're going to rapidly vaccinate the entire population, even 70%, even 50%. We're in a situation here where there's been a degree of mismanagement and misplanning that's going to delay the inoculation schedule. So we have two things affecting us now when it comes to the flu, and that is the new outbreak and the kind of lackluster inoculations that we're expecting. What else is going on? So there is another initiative by the government regarding the flu, which is what they're calling the Phuket Sandbox, reopening Thailand. A lot of news about that, a lot of hype about that. It is very limited at this time. They are experiencing a lot of infections in both people coming who were COVID negative and inoculated before they came, developing COVID positive tests. Most of these cases are not super serious. They're mild cases, but they are detecting them, and it's putting questions on whether they'll be able to sustain this open border to Phuket. Phuket is one area, it's an island, they isolated it, and they're able to kind of do a trial of bringing people in. So far, not spectacular results. So let's talk a little bit about the economy. What I want to highlight here is that the second wave caused the economy to contract 2.6% in the GDP. Following the GDP, a 6.1% drop in the GDP in 2020. So GDP is not doing that great. The third wave, I expect, will dig even deeper. It's kind of, the whole economy here is kind of in a hibernation mode, I suppose, like many countries. But because of the role of tourism here, this economy is really held back until we're able to welcome new guests to Thailand. Let's take a look at, if you're a foreign buyer, there's some good news going on. And what I'm talking about is that since early this year, the Thai baht has lost about 10% against the US dollar. So you can equate that to your own currency. But if it continues to go down, then you're getting more purchasing power here. It will all depend on how the currencies do relative to each other. What's going on the political landscape is another thing that's interesting. A number of what they call student protests. This would be pro-democracy protests that have been going on for months now. Initially, I didn't think there were much more than, student protests was quite normal. But they are going on, and they are growing in size and momentum. So there's a certain amount of growth there. Also, what's happening is forces that are unhappy with the government's performance, especially when it comes to the flu and the vaccination. So they're kind of combining those two groups, and they're growing. There is quiet talk of political coups or coup d'etats. And I don't think it's something that's on the horizon, but it's always a possibility in Thailand. It's a recurring theme in Thailand as a corrective measure to any government. It always seems to be that elections are not always the way things are resolved. There's forces of power that go against each other, displace each other, and sometimes not in a democratic process. That being said, it's not something to be afraid of. As an investor, it happens all the time. I think I've been through 2 of them myself, and they're not terribly, terribly bad. They're not bloody coups. They're usually very bloodless coups. It's just battling factions of the people who hold power. What do I think about real estate? What's my outlook? What are we looking at? So I have to qualify to say my concentration is Bangkok. That's where I operate. That's where I do business. And specifically downtown Bangkok in the core of the city. I guess you could apply to some of these concepts to the rest of Thailand. It shares the same economy. It shares similar issues. So you could think about resort destinations, and certainly some people have been asking me in other videos, do I do resort destinations? Do I help to people to buy? Certainly I can. So where do I think prices are headed? In my earlier updates, I alluded to the fact that prices are down about 20 to 30%, and I hold on that. I hold on that prediction. I don't think they're going down a lot more. I think we are pretty well at the bottom. People are not going to discount much more than that. What I think is that with this period being extended now, you'll find more and more homeowners falling into that situation where they need to liquidate their home. And they can't stretch their dollar any longer. They need to sell. Those who don't need to sell are going to hold on through this storm. We all know that. But what they're going to do is I see increased supply of discounted properties coming to the market. And how many that is, I think, will really be a function of how long the economy remains depressed. How long can people survive without liquidating some of their assets at a discount? What do I think are the opportunities for people overseas? Well, the discounted prices are good. I watched a video this morning about America and prices going up 17% in 1 month. And here they're down relative. So if you look a year ago, you're getting like a huge differential on what's going on. You are getting the weaker baht, so it's giving you a little bit more purchasing power. So that's interesting. And I know that some investors or some people who are buying here are doing so just for diversification in currency. And real estate is always a fairly safe hold of currency, of value. So, if you're in an environment where you say, hey, I have a lot vested in one currency and I'm looking for something else, Thailand could be appealing in that respect. There is some, again, rumors of government modifying the laws or reenacting old policies to help foreign investors. And specifically, I'm thinking about investment visas, and they are looking at revising these. These are people who are spending 8 to 10 million baht. 10 million baht. So if you were to put in about $300,000 into a property here, you possibly can get a visa. This is not tied down yet. So that's one thing that they're looking at. I also heard rumors where the government is considering to allow people to buy properties that have land. So far right now, the only sure bet for purchasing is condominiums. That's what the law allows for. Although some people have bought land, leased land. I've done other videos on this kind of thing. The government is thinking of legalizing actual purchase of land, freehold land with a house on it in certain situations to foreigners, which would be interesting for certain people who want to buy. And I think in holiday destinations, that's great, but there's a lot of going back and forth on that. Some of the caveats that they're putting in are not super attractive. Maybe we'll do a video on that someday when it becomes more real. So what I'm trying to say is the government is looking at trying to facilitate your investment in Thailand with different policies, and some better than others. If I were to sum it up, I'd say it's not a bad time to invest. You look at the currency, you look at depressed prices. Is it better to wait? Maybe if you don't find the property you like, you can hope that something else will come on the market or during this depressed period. Would I wait for government policies? No. A lot of them are talked about and very often never even come close to being to reality. The other thing I want to mention, I did another video, but many people are not aware that you can purchase and sell property from abroad. So even if you're holding property now, you're watching this video because you're saying, hey, Gerald, I have property. What's going to happen? What can I do? What are my options? You can sell and you can buy with never entering Thailand using a power of attorney. Yeah, so that's a wrap. This is the market update. To make it very, very short, I don't see prices coming down a lot more. I see maybe some more options on the market, and I see maybe over time, but maybe not fast enough, the government adopting some new policies to give you some new options. This is Gerald.Enright. Do comment below about anything I can help you with. Look in the description. All my contact information is there. Give me a thumbs up. Help boost these videos to help other people who are interested in this topic. It will appear more often in suggestions in YouTube so we can get these videos out to more people who are interested to learn about this. And finally, like, subscribe, hit that notification button. Thank you for joining me. I really hope this update was informative for you, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks a lot. Gerald.Enright coming to you from my office here in Bangkok, Thailand.